So, welcome to the Impact Room. My name is Paul Norris, and you are.
I'm Zacke Ferry.
What do you do at Impact? Are you working at Impact?
I am the Recovery Education Director and Business Development.
Well, that's a mouthful.
It's a lot. You should see my email signature. It's fancy.
Is it? Interesting.
It's cool.
So, Zach, in your journey in recovery, how has wellness helped you as far as it might be physical or mental? Are there some things you do in order to help you move along on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. I mean, I guess my journey started at my spirituality, wellness. That's where it kind of started for me. I feel like for me, I healed spiritually, and then I healed mentally, and then physically. I think physically was like the last thing on my mind because I always thought this was some sort of my recovery journey, and substance abuse was always something physical. Just put the bottle down, or just put the bag down, or don't do this, or hang out with these people. And I realized that every time I tried to do that, I would never heal the mental side of it, where I was consistently obsessed or dealing with my mental illness, or the things that I suffer from along the lines of insecurity, depression and things like that. Like, I never healed that side of it. I always was like, look, I'll just remove this substance and then get a job, and I'll be okay. Or if I could just get a girlfriend, or somebody loved me, that I would be okay. And it turns out that didn't work.
Do you feel like there's one that's more important than the other, or all three are very important?
I feel like they equally hold sway. I think for me personally, I had to heal the priority first. The priority for me was having a connection. Because like, it's so funny because like, the reason why I think I picked up substances like drugs and alcohol was for unity.
Okay.
Right. And like, I wanted to be a part of. I always felt like less than. I always felt like, I have an older brother, right? My older brother was so cool back in the day. Like, he was partying, cool friends, had the girlfriend, like all these things that I always wanted. And like, the only difference between me and him, because we're basically the same person, just Irish twins, is that he used substances, and like feeling like insecure, or having an itchy sweater I could never take off, or it just felt uncomfortable in my own skin. I would use a substance and that would immediately go away.
Okay.
Right. And then I would be funny, I'd have friends, and, my brother's friends would be like, yo, invite your little brother. He's so funny. He's so cool. Right. And it did everything for me. Didn't really matter what it did to me, because it's all the same results. But what alcohol and drugs did for me was a completely different thing.
Okay.
It did everything that I couldn't do myself. And it gave me that unity aspect of having friends and going places and doing things and meeting people, and like all these aspects of my life that I couldn't do on my own accord.
Okay.
I put this social lubricant in me, and then all of a sudden everyone wants to be around me. But the problem is that I have alcoholism, right? And I have an addiction problem. So like, I can't put it down. You see people all the time who may have the physical aspect of addiction, where it's like, they're physically dependent on substances, right? But like, if it's prescribed by a doctor, they don't, go rob a house to supply that habit. And there are people who are mentally obsessed with substances. We all know the weekend warrior, right? Where It's like, oh, Monday, I can't wait till Friday.
Right.
Party time. They're obsessed with it, but they don't suffer from what I do. And what I suffer from is, as soon as I put a substance in me, I can't put it down on my own accord. And for me, that was a matter of spirituality, where I had a malady, basically, sickness.
Well, you said something that sparked a thought. Being part of something bigger than yourself was one of the reasons why you picked up, or one of the reasons why you started. Just having a sense of belonging. Would you agree with that? Or,
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
I just want to be a part of.
Right.
Like, if you look through my eyes, especially, before and during my addiction, it looked pretty lonely.
Okay.
It looked pretty crappy being me. Being short, skinny with the last name Ferry my whole entire life. Obviously, I didn't have a fun childhood. Got picked on and punched on. And I just felt so disconnected from other people who are happy. And I'm like, I'm not happy ever. You know, like the best way I can describe it, imagine everyone in the world being a letter in the alphabet. You know, you got A's and B's and C's and stuff like that. And I'm a 3, right? But like in the right circumstances, I can kind of look like an E, right? Or like in a different circumstance, I can kind of look like an M.
Right.
But like I'm different and I'm separate. And nothing took that away. Nothing took that feeling away that I know of. You know, because I went to doctors and psychologists and all these things because everyone on the outside could see that there was something wrong with me internally. And I feel it. I know what it is, but I couldn't put, you know, a label on it. You know, it wasn't ADHD and it wasn't depression. It was more than that for me.
Okay.
I feel like that was kind of like the branch, you know, and then the root of it was just, you know, I'm just an alcoholic and an addict since I was born, you know. It's like I started a party at 12 and it ended when I was 36. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I understand. So we talked about the spiritual part of it. What do you do on a daily basis to keep moving forward or to grow? Because you're either growing or dying, right? There's no in between.
There's no, I'm either going towards something or I'm getting closer to a bottle.
Right. So what do you do on a daily basis, if you don't mind sharing one of the things you do to progress in your spirituality?
Meditation.
Okay.
It's probably my key.
All right.
It's a chance for everything to shut down, you know, and get outside myself and really focus on what it is that I want to achieve, right? And it's not like I float 6 inches above the ground or anything.
Okay.
But like if you have a control center like I do, like it's consistently moving, right? It's thinking about things that haven't even happened yet, or how am I going to show up in this situation, or you know, what's going to happen if this happens, and then I play out 8 different scenarios of what would happen if that happened, right? And it's like a chance for me, especially in the morning when I first wake up, because like I don't pick up the phone first, or I don't worry about what's going on around me. I get grounded and I get centered, and I get my focus locked in on the things that I want to achieve. And we're not talking day-to-day goals. I'm talking big goals, right?
Okay.
So like I always think about the big things in life that I want to achieve and how am I working towards that goal. Man, it's so funny because when I meditate, I always do the same thing. Do you remember the movie, The Matrix?
Oh,
Do you know when he's in that white room and there's the 2 chairs?
Yes.
I always go into that room, but
Okay.
there's only like 1 chair.
Right.
And I sit in that chair and I focus on what goals and aspirations that I want, right? And then I put my thoughts towards others because that's how I live my life. I might maintain my sobriety by helping other people.
Okay.
And then I focus on how I can be better and show up in other people's lives. And I just ask, you know, what I choose to believe in to put me in that position to do what he wants me to do. Like I can think about all the things that I want in the world and all the things that I want to do, but really I'm not operating off this control center. I'm operating off, you know, principles that are based in spirituality. And I say, like, how do I show up in other people's lives? You know, put me in a position so that I can help other people more than I help myself. Because the less I think about myself, the more I'm helping other people.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're putting a game plan together, and then little steps in between in order to achieve the big things, right?
Yeah.
And then helping people along the way, which reconfirms what you believe in by talking to those people.
Well, I think it's more like the action side of it.
Okay.
Like the theoretical side of it is one thing, that I want to be a person of service and I want to give to my fellow man and I want to help all these people. But the action side of it is like, what are you going to actually do? Like, how are you going to be better than you were yesterday? And it's kind of looking at the things almost yesterday that I did that I didn't show up correctly. If I was angry, resentful, selfish, afraid, or I didn't discuss something I should have discussed at once. Was I thinking about myself most of the time, or was I thinking about other people? And like, how do I not do that? Like, and like theoretically, I could be like, well, I'll just, you know, show up for other people. But like the action side of it is like boots on the ground.
Right.
Like, how am I going to put myself in a position to help other people? Am I going to go to my job and think about what I'm getting out of my job or what I'm bringing to my job? Am I going to go into someone else's life who's struggling and say, like, am I just here to use them to vent myself, or am I actually going to help them? When I have a conversation with somebody, am I really listening, or am I just waiting for my chance to speak? And like doing these small action, puts me in a position to help me. It helps me more than it helps other people.
Sure.
Because like I'm aware, a lot of my life and a lot of the things that I do in practice is awareness. Because like if I'm not aware of how I show up in your life, like you might think some type of way about me and I won't even know it,
Right.
because I'm too busy thinking about myself.
Now, how did you make that switch? I mean, did you feel that way your whole life, or is that something you started to learn in practice? And why did you make that switch?
Well, I think that I've grown up a selfish, self-centered person.
Okay.
That the world revolves around me consistently. And I get angry at people when they won't do what I want them to do. It's almost like if I hit you with my car and I get out of the car and I'm like, yo, why are you in my way?
Right.
That's how I operate
I
for
would
most
totally
of my
dent
life.
your car up, though.
I don't know.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, you might look big. It kind of looks kind of soft.
That's okay.
So, but like if I'm operating off this lifestyle, right, where I'm only concerned about me and what I have going on and like the path that I went down, my entire life, like, losing, my family and being in prison for majority of my life, and then having, a drug and alcohol, obsession and addiction my entire life. The results of me being a selfish, self-centered person are in front of me. That's what my results are. So like if I'm operating off selfishness consistently, then the turn of that would be selfless, being selfless, right? And thinking nothing about myself, and well, some about myself, right? But like thinking about other people before myself and helping other people has turned my life 180 degrees. And like theoretically, again, it looks great, but like feeling and getting the results of that, of just being more concerned about others than I am myself, has put me on a level of spirituality I didn't know existed.
Can you pinpoint one time in your life you're like, that's when you made the change, or is it over several experiences that led up to that change?
I don't think it was like a white light or burning bush experience for me. I think it was more like the fabric of my life.
Okay.
Like when I start to give to others, people want to be around me. And like, remember, when I started my drug and alcohol, it was for unity.
Right.
And now I'm helping other people. I'm getting the same results that I did with alcohol and drugs.
Being a part of something.
Yeah.
People wanting to be around you.
Yeah. Just literally last night I went and made part of an amends process that I'm working on with my like second family, right? So a kid I grew up with, we ripped and ran together, and he turned his life around. And then like it took me a long while because I'm a hard-headed guy, right? And I come back around and he comes into my life and he's like, I'm afraid to be around you because I don't know. I mean, look at your past. And I'm like, I completely understand that. Just to have the opportunity to be great if we could hang out. So we hung out one time because I got a car that he loves. And I was like, take it out, man. Take it for a ride. We'll go hang out. We got lunch. We had a talk and I made amends to him. And one of the things he said is like, you're going to have to talk to mom and dad. And I said, of course. They're like my second family.
Okay.
So I went and talked to them. And part of my amends process is being like, yo, I'm available if you ever need me, because they're in their 70s, late 70s.
Okay.
So they called me yesterday, and I'm at work, and I had a long day, and he's like, hey, you know how to put a tow hitch on? And I'm like, of course I do. I used to work on cars. And he's like, I'm going to need you to come to the house and put this tow hitch on. Part of the process is being available.
Right.
And I said, absolutely, I'll be over there.
Right.
So after working this long day, I'm on my back under a GMC Arcadia in a driveway, getting yelled at because I'm not doing it the way he wants me to do. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I put this tow hitch on, and then I had dinner with the family, and we talked, and like, this is part of the process. And like, being able to go to someone who literally told me that like, yo, you can't be around my son because you're either going to die or you're going to kill him. Right. I don't want you around my family. Don't come to my house anymore. And being in the position, because of doing the right thing, for him to invite me over to help him. And then I ended up like wrapping a bunch of cords up, moving stuff into the attic, and the mom made dinner, and I sat down with them, and like the spirituality behind that, like the freedom that had to offer, like didn't matter that I was tired. It didn't matter that I didn't want to do it. Didn't matter that I was full of fear going in there, but like I did it. And like I came home and I felt like I was floating.
Well, that's one of the things, that to be successful, you have to be uncomfortable, right? And doing the things that we don't want to do. Mike Tyson says a great quote, discipline is doing the things you don't want to do, but you do them like you love them, right? So you put that offer out there, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And they called you on it. And being a person of your word, you followed through, even though it might not have been super comfortable and you were tired. But the feeling that you got when you left and you were there for them was what?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I felt more than a man, like it's, and it goes all the way back to the fabrics of being a person with integrity, right? When I go in front of them and I say like, I've caused you harm and I'm willing to do whatever that looks like for the rest of my life to prove to you that I am who I am, that I'm a different person. And they make that call at 4:30 and I get off at 5. I'm there.
Right.
I didn't think twice about it.
Right.
I knew I was uncomfortable. I knew I had a long day. I knew I was tired. None of that mattered because like this is an opportunity. So like I took it and I seized it. And like how you feel after, it's like you're floating. It's like, I swear, I know what Gandhi felt like, and that's one very small aspect, because as we're building who we are, like rebuilding my life from not being that person who I was in my addiction to who I am now, like when those fabrics start to weave, nothing touches it.
Do you feel like most people take the path of least resistance?
I do.
And if they do, what's their chances of succeeding?
I don't know. Like I think that there is not one way to do anything. I feel like spirituality, if we're just talking about that aspect, is a bridge to a better life.
Okay.
Like you have to grow in your spirituality as you grow as a person. Do I think that there's one way that you have to do this or not? No, I don't. But what I do believe is that there's a core to it, right? And there's a goal to be achieved, and that is to be as selfless as possible. So like if we're trying to achieve a goal, I don't care if you take a bus there. I don't care if your mom drops you off. I don't care if you pick me up or I Uber or I take a train or I fall through the ceiling. Like I think that there's many different paths to, being connected with your mind, body, and your spirit. I think there's a million different ways. I mean, I've seen people take Reiki classes. I've seen people like hold crystals up to the moon. I've seen people who just lay in bed and talk to themselves. I've seen people who've done, acupuncture. I've seen people who go to church. I think that there's so many different ways to achieve this, but I think the goal is the same, right? Because like the principles that I operate off of weren't established in Akron, Ohio in 1934, right? They've been around the entire religion since religion's been around. And these are principles that like you look out for other people more than you look out for yourself, right? You don't rob and you don't steal. And if you say something, you do it, no matter what that looks like. I had a situation a couple of weeks ago where like a bunch of people said they were going to do things and they ended up not doing it. And that made me feel worse for them, for you to say like, hey, I'm going to be there, I'm going to do this, and then not show up. You're just like, I don't want to be that person.
Right.
And like, I think that the ultimate goal is to be as selfless as possible. How you get there, it's up to you. I mean, if you look at my life, my entire past, you would think whoever's in charge of me is trying to kill me. Right. I said it last night. I said, man, if I'd have known I was going to make it on this long on this earth, I probably should have took care of myself a little better.
Right. Like, I don't got nothing to worry about.
No, it's cool. I'll be gone by 30.
Here.
And then,
right. Okay. Well, that's the spiritual part. What about the mental part?
So the mental part,
yeah.
The mental part is a tricky one, right? Because I think that there are things that you can control mentally. There are aspects that you can control mentally. But I also think that there is some aspects that are a chemical imbalance or a wrong firing order in the mental side of it.
Okay.
So like I will always recommend seeking professional help. there are people who are trained and who do this for a living that can do aspects of my life better than I can, you know, and I did that. I went through a therapist and a psychologist and a psychiatrist. It did work wonders for me, you know, and that is super important. So I never want to think that like you can get out of doing that, right?
Okay.
Like I'm not a doctor, right? I know what works for me because of past experiences of failing 1,000 times. So as a person who's failed 1,000 times, I always first tell you to seek professional help.
Right.
You know, use your resources or whatever you have to do. And if you don't have the resources, you can always reach out to me. I have plenty of them.
I think you said something right there. Just going back and reevaluating your past experiences and learning from them, and being open to learn from them and to get better. But that takes some mental discipline of sitting down, doing your meditation, right? The spirituality part of it too,
Of course.
and wanting to be better and to get better, and doing what it takes in order to do that consistently. You know, that's a big part of it, because success principles are universal. No matter what you apply them to, that just happens to be one of them as far as the consistency parting and wanting to do better.
Yeah. I mean, if you look, I looked at my past experiences, right? And I've never been happy and sober at the same time. I didn't think that was an achievable goal.
Okay.
I look at other people who got sober, right? And I'm like, I don't feel like you look. You know, I get sober and it feels worse. And like, what I had to do is understand that my thought process and everything that I've done in life that I thought would fix me has led me to this, right? And like when I hit that, you know, that rock bottom or whatever you want to call it, that point of most pain, right? I would do anything. Paul, if you told me to go outside and pick up sticks with my feet and then put them in a pile, I would do it.
Thanks for
I
the
would have
visual.
done it. Yeah, no problem.
I could have gone my whole life.
I could have got a lot worse, but we're being recorded, right? But like, I would have done anything not to feel that way anymore.
Right.
I didn't want to be here anymore. I did not want to live anymore. I had nothing. You know, I had my older brother at the time wasn't talking to me. I got 4 violent felonies, all burglaries, right? I'm homeless. And I have no one and nothing. I burnt every single bridge to the ground. Like, do you understand? Have you ever looked at a calendar and been like, only 9 more Christmases until I go home? The level of loneliness that feels. Or like, how about being in prison and watching the guy, the corrections officer who passes out the mail, walk by yourself for 7 years and not drop a lever?
Wow.
That's a level of loneliness that I don't want anyone to achieve.
How do you get through that? I mean, what do you do?
Well, luckily, if you can't get through it, DOC will force you to.
Okay.
So like, but like, there were times where it got real bad, right? And there were times where even in the worst situations, you can be happy.
You say real bad. What do you mean by
Like
real
mentally really bad? Like, why am I even here? Like, why am I still here? Like, why am I still putting up this fight? Why do I should just end it? You know, and like having those thoughts or those weeks at a time where like I just don't even have the energy or I have that such mental fatigue that like I can't even operate.
Okay.
Like, because I just didn't want to be me. And there were times that it was really funny, you know, like where I'm around a bunch of guys who make me happy and make me laugh, right? And you get through it the best way you can.
Okay.
You know, and like this is where I started seeking mental health,
Okay.
right? Because like I don't feel like this should be normal. I should not feel like I don't want to be here anymore. This shouldn't be a normal feeling for someone like me.
Okay.
Getting through that was tough, man. But you got to understand is like the toughness of it was not the fact that I had to face consequences, but it was my actions that put me in this situation, right? And like, you know, being a victim of circumstances, we'll call it, you know, at that time, you know, I blame the cop for arresting me when I did the burglary.
Right.
You know, I blame the judge for sentencing me when I did the crime.
Right.
It's almost like blaming the pen for failing a test, you know? It's like
Right.
I had to get out of that and say like, yo, you know, I came in here and I did these things that were against the law and I have to pay my time for that.
Accountability.
Absolutely. And understanding that it was a direct result of my drug and alcoholism that put me in this situation.
Okay.
And like hitting that core note. You put yourself here, you do your time, but like this is your opportunity to do different. Now I held on to that for a lot of years, but like I'll tell you, that last day in jail, this is when I've had like this moment of clarity, right? So like after doing multiple years in jail, I remember I was getting released and I thought I would be the happiest day ever, right? Like you get your sheet, your sign out sheet, you're going around all these places. I had so much fear because like it for me it wasn't a matter of if I was going to pick back up. It was just a matter of when.
Really?
You know, like think about it. Push somebody out who's homeless, you know, has multiple felonies, who's in a different state, has no ID, no birth certificate, no social security card, and nowhere to go. What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's your 2 bus tokens. Good luck. And I was scared. I was so much fear that day. And like, I didn't make it. You know, I ended up going down North Philadelphia and being homeless down there for 2.5 years. But that's where my process started. So like, and the reason why I want to explain these things is so you don't have to go that low.
Right.
Like, and that's, you know, typically what I do and I talk about is like, you don't have to reach a bottom that I do because like for some people's bottom is different. The circumstances are all different, but the one thing that we share in common is the pain. And when you've reached a pain threshold, that will give you the power to do something different because like pain is a catalyst. Mm-hmm. It's either you're going to do better, or you're going to do worse. There's no in between or gray area.
Right.
And like changing your mind state to saying like, yo, I'm going to use this for something good instead of beating myself up. You know, like that's how this all starts. For me, that's how it started. You know, I could cry the blues about my entire past, or I could use it as fuel never to be that person again. And that's what I did.
I love that.
That's how it started.
Yeah.
You know, and a couple weird experiences and things that I could only label as a higher power coming into my life, you know. Mm-hmm. But like that was as I started to do the right thing. You know, somebody looked out for me.
Mm-hmm. So did I kind of know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah.
So when you made the decision, like I'm absolutely going to change my life, and this is the way I'm going to go, did you encounter any adversities as soon as you made that decision?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Many adversities.
Sure.
There were many things in my life that, you know, pushed me away from it. I had a mind that can't get enough and a body that can't take anymore, you know? And I'm stuck in this trap I can't spring. I don't know how to fix myself. I've tried everything. And it was, you know, a couple of really good guys. It was a couple of circumstances that cannot be explained. I couldn't put a label to it if I tried.
Do you think because you were so open at that point,
I just think
you were looking for it? I mean, like you're looking for that opportunity. If your mind wasn't open to other alternatives, do you think you would have missed those opportunities?
Probably.
Yeah.
You know, I was at a point where like, there was only there's only one thing that I never achieved in my addiction. Like I've hit all the bottoms. The only one thing I never achieved was staying dead. I've died many times, several times, but staying dead was the only one I couldn't pull off.
Okay.
And I didn't understand that. And I don't just divine. It's divine. Like I had a purpose. If you have a purpose, if you have a breath and a heartbeat and you're here, you have a purpose. And finding out what that purpose is takes some time and it takes some work and it takes a lot of fact finding and fact facing and swallowing and digesting a lot of humility and hard truths about who you are as a person. But if you hit the point of pain that I hit, there's no other option. It's up. That's it.
I believe that, you know, finding your why, your purpose, makes life clear, just not easier.
Palatable.
Yeah, because you know what direction. I just feel like a lot of people have no idea what their purpose is or what their why is or their reason for being. And that makes life challenging because if you don't know what you stand for, then, you know, why even stand at all?
You fall for anything.
Right, you fall for anything. So finding out your reason or your passion or the reason why you're here, I believe it aligns you with what you want to do or gives you purpose or, you know, you understand what I'm saying is just, it's clear, but there's going to be some things along the way that are going to try to derail you. So as far as physical, enduring, you know, your past and all that stuff, dealing with some of the challenges or that came with the abuse or the addiction. How do you get through those things?
Well, the physical side of it, you know, as you grow in every other aspect, you want to grow physically too. Like, you want to start taking better care of yourself. You know, you want to start throwing out old habits. You know, like I used to eat a ton of sweets, right? And you know me, I don't eat sweets.
Right.
You know, and it wasn't a matter of, you know, I'm just going to be this healthy guru who, you know, 6 years ago, well, God willing, in like 15 days, I'll have 6 years, but who was like, I'm going to put, you know, everything down, including the sweets. No, it just had an effect on me. You know, like when sugar goes into my body, I start to have an effect, right? Where I get like really weird highs and then really low crashes, you know? So I started noticing that as I'm putting away like the sweets or like the energy drinks or things like that, that this stuff starts, you know, I start to level, almost like a neutrality, almost like a place of neutrality where I'm not like real high highs and real low lows. So I took out the sugar,
Right.
you know, and it's like, I felt so much better, you know, exercising, you know, and don't think I'm perfect. I mean, I don't have these cannons, you know, but I mean, but like when I came into my addiction, I was 106 pounds.
Oh,
106 pounds.
okay.
When I first got sober, I was like 115. That's like what I started this journey as. And like no muscle forming whatsoever, but like I started to work out, and I'm not, you know, a pro lifter or things like that, but like the effects, right? Like when I go work out in the morning, like it's like my mind's clear and my body feels good and I'm happy. And like I had a lot of effects from it, and I'm like, wow, I should consistently do this, you know? And
Do you feel like it helped you, or I don't interrupt you, but do you feel like it helped your self-worth, your self-image?
well, in some aspects, I think I have a chemical imbalance, which, you know, with the last podcast that we talked about with Dave, you know, I have a very insecure. I've always been, and it's something that I've suffered from, and I'm consistently working for it. So like I didn't have the feeling of like self-confidence, but it was more like the effects of, you know, energy wise.
Okay.
You know, like you would know. Like if you don't work out, like you go to work, you lay down, you go to sleep. Go to work, lay down, and go to sleep. You start to get fatigued.
Yeah.
You know, like we're halfway through the day, like you eat a lunch, an unhealthy lunch, and you're like, I'm ready to nap. So like if you take that and you, instead of eating something unhealthy, you do like a salad, you feel great. I don't feel that tiredness. I don't feel that fatigue. Almost like that. Like I would come in, and at first I was like, I completely do not want to do this gym thing.
Yeah.
You know, everybody runs from it and finds every excuse in the book. And then as soon as I do it, it's like I feel better. You know, you come out of there and like you just feel so much better about yourself, and like an energy feeling. You know, like almost like you radiate.
I think people discount the nutrition part of health. You know, it's not that you have to not enjoy some of the foods out there because food is fun. It's just eating consistently and making smarter choices on a daily basis has an effect physically, but not only physically, mentally too. I mean, there's the highs we mentioned earlier with the sugars and the energy drinks. All that stuff is just horrible for your body and your mental well-being, because a lot of things go on with our gut health. There's a lot of things, enzymes in there that get ruined because of the food we eat. So therefore, you're not processing what you need to process, how you need to process it. But just eating healthier and more often, I know, because I've seen it thousands of times, that people feel better about themselves.
And you could probably speak to it better than I could. But like I wasn't like this light switch guy. I see a lot of people in the physical eating healthy aspects. It's like a light switch. They're like, I'm cutting everything out, right? I'm gonna do a juice cleanse, and then I'm gonna drink protein shakes, and I'm only gonna eat rabbit food.
Right.
But like for me, how it started to, you know, eating healthier was I would make smarter choices, right? Like I don't have to get like a burger, mac and cheese, and, you know, fries when I could do, why don't I just do a salad and a burger, right? Something very small.
Yeah.
And then I started finding ways that I like salad, you know, with quinoa or chickpeas, and, little pieces of pepperoni in it or something like that. And then I pushed away the burger and started just making cooler salads. Same thing with like chicken. I don't have to have deep fried barbecue, dipping it in ranch dressing.
It is good though.
It is good, trust me. But like if I'm making smarter decisions, like getting a leaner chicken or a leaner turkey or a leaner hamburger, and then you get to this point where like you're only eating healthy foods and it came naturally, and then you switch from creatine to vegan powder, or you learn about greens and alkalized water and like all these things that help you more and more. But like it's stages, it's progression, and then you get the Paul's meal plan and you start following that.
You're right. It's the consistency, right? It's,
absolutely.
It's not just one meal; it's the 1,000 meals. And you do feel better along the way. But without the consistency, there'll be nothing. And that goes to sobriety or mental health or spirituality, whatever you want to apply to it, it works. But working out, eating healthy, definitely. I mean, you're a machine, and if you don't put the right things in order for the machine to work, then the machine's not going to function properly. But yet, most people get surprised when they've been eating garbage or putting the wrong fuel in that machine, and then 20 years later, like, oh, I have this or I have that. Well, you didn't get it today. You've been working on this for 20 years.
Yeah.
Doing the wrong things all the time for 20 years, and now you're surprised that
my
the machine's not working.
My favorite is me personally. What I do is like in every aspect of my life. Like I get a sore throat, and I'll be like, I must have just smoked too much, and then I'll get a runny nose, and I'll be like, must be my allergies, and then I'll start to feel like weak and fatigued. Must have been a long day at work. It's like, no, you're sick. And like in every aspect, it's almost like, I'm super tired, and I have unhealthy eating habits consistently, and I'm not exercising, and then I'm blaming the tired on work. Well, like, let's kind of look at that. I've been eating burgers my entire life, with extra mayo. You know what I mean?
Every once in a while, it's not bad, but
yeah, but you know what I mean. Like if I want to grow physically, like there's aspects of it that I have to look at. It's not just like go to the gym and then be one of these guys you see on Facebook or models. You know, it's like eating healthy. I can't just turn that light switch off and strictly eat salads. It's a balance, and it's learning. And it's understanding, and it's asking people like you for help in that situation where it's like, I'm doing this, and this, but it's not working for me. And you'll be like, well, that's because you're not doing this. And if I'm too afraid to ask for help, none of this changes.
Right.
Every aspect in spirituality, in mental health, in physical health, like I have to be open and say like, I don't know it all. I don't have all the answers. And like, obviously, especially when it comes to the other aspects, obviously that didn't work out too well, with all the consequences that came along with it.
Sure.
And it's the same thing with physical health. I have all these consequences where I'm consistently tired. I'm consistently not wanting to do things. And I'm in this mental state where it's like, I'm thinking it's something else. It's going to someone who is in good shape, who does work a good, physical program, who eats healthy, and saying like, hey, listen, I don't know if this is me, but like, I'm consistently tired, and I'm not feeling good all the time, and I don't have the energy to work out. And you're like, oh, well, you're not eating healthy, and you can come work out with me, and like I'll show you these things. It's opening your mouth.
Yeah, and just like anything else, I believe that there's a certain order to things. I believe a lot of us think that we can bypass that order in order to still achieve what we're supposed to achieve, but there's certain things that you must do in order to get that result, and a lot of us want to bypass a couple steps in order to achieve that result, and then we're upset that we don't achieve that result because we didn't, we try to bypass what we need to do. It's like trying to call your best friend and dialing the number and say, you know what, I don't like number 5s, and there's 2 5s in that phone number. And you're like, I'm just going to use a 4.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get in touch with your buddy, your friend, because you haven't follow the procedure, the sequence,
absolutely,
or the proper.
I like to call it, getting healthy by osmosis. Like if I shop at Sprouts, I'm gonna get healthy, right? If I stand in the lobby at Planet Fitness, I'm gonna get bigger.
Yeah, it's a little more than that.
A couple more steps you gotta take to do it.
Absolutely, but people like to fool themselves. I'm like, oh, I do this, I do that. I'm like, are you really? Are you following exactly what you need to do, or at least consistent with what you need to do? So
It's a good thing.
awesome. Yeah.
What else you got?
I mean, there's a lot. I don't know how much time we got.
I mean, I could sit here all day and talk,
I mean, hopefully I get a pot of gold.
Maybe. If you're lucky. You have to find it.
Luck of the Irish.
Chase the rainbow.
Is there any questions that you have for me?
No, not really, man. I appreciate your time, and I always grateful to come on, to the Impact Room. It's always good, man.
It's impactful.
It's very impactful, and you can always find it.
Right.
All the social media, YouTube, Facebook, website. Find me.
Anything else you want to throw in there?
No, not really. That's it.
Well, thank you for your time. I
Absolutely.
appreciate
Thank you, Paul.
And
Love seeing you, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, you're getting smaller.
I know. I'm working on it.
It's okay. As your physical trainer, we'll get you back in
I
shape.
appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.